I don't care about the story, I don't care about the myth, I don't care how you see my life, you haven't witnessed it. Use fear as a weapon and pity as a whip, convince everyone around that I'm a piece of shit.
And what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 40 of the Uncommon Line podcast. We're back at Texas Gun Experience. I've got Zach from Triarch Systems here. We'll get to all that good stuff in a little bit. But first off, I got to apologize for the long delay in the show coming to y'all. It's been nuts for everybody in our family, for each business. It's just been that time of the year between moving different positions and growing and work and progress. It's just been nuts. So we apologize for taking such a long sabbatical, but we are back, and we're back with an awesome episode. Like I said, we're back at Texas Gun Experience, which is, Zach, refresh my memory, it is their what year anniversary?
I believe it's their second year, maybe third.
Second or third year anniversary. They've got all kinds of vendors here. So y'all are here. Triarch's here. A bunch of other brands are here. Here at the shop. So I know this is dropping the week after on Wednesday, but I always tell y'all, come check out Texas Gun Experience here in Grapevine, Texas. Even if you're flying in, popping in, and we'll introduce Alex in a second, but what's your first experience of Texas Gun Experience?
It's crazy how many guns they have.
Yeah, it's awesome. He kept walking through. We were showing him the VIP room and everything. So we're very thankful for having this relationship and letting us use this. All right, so a little bit of a change in the show. Mark is no longer with us. Poor Mark. He's not dead. I guess I should preface that. This poor one out for him. He's not dead. Just changing career paths and everything had to take him away from the show, which we totally understand and we're okay with. We'll miss him. Everybody will miss him, but we wish him luck in his endeavors wherever that is. Wink, wink, unwink, wink, wink. Yeah. But he's not dead, so I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. So in that note, we are going to be making some changes to the show, but today's guest co-host is Zach from Triarch Systems.
How's it going?
This really wasn't supposed to be your first show.
No, but
we're supposed to do one with you and Chris, just y'all two, and just us shooting the shit. And really, we're going to do the Uncommon Kitchen, you and I cooking and stuff, which we're still going to do.
Yes, I'm very excited about that one.
So if everybody doesn't know, Zach is very much more a food connoisseur than me, even.
Maybe.
Well, I think so.
We both.
You make oils and vinegars. I don't even
true.
do that. He makes potions.
Yeah.
Potions and food potions. So, and my wife's still behind the camera. So if the cameras are all jacked up, well, we know who to blame. So
it's going to come back to you no matter what.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So on today's note, episode 40, we have a really special guest. We're back for another part of Warrior's Voice with Operation Enduring Warrior. We know in some past episodes we've mentioned them. We interviewed them several episodes ago in regards to a Warrior's Voice and the program they have going on with the Wounded Warriors and between police officers and military. And so we want to introduce our guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Alex.
My name is Alex Douglas. I'm a Pennsylvania State Trooper. I've been on the job for 16 years.
So with Operation Enduring Warrior, what are you technically, an honoree?
So I'm an honoree, yes. They have MAP members, which are guys who basically go through a whole type of training to help out honorees that get involved with Operation Enduring Warriors. I'm actually part of Task Force Sentinel, they call it, which is the law enforcement side of Operation Enduring Warriors.
That's awesome. So obviously we're not going to go back into what Operation Enduring Warrior is. We've kind of already had an episode on that and what they are and what all they do. We'll mention it throughout the show, but really we wanted to have Alex on to kind of talk about his story and his testimony. You've had a wild ride.
Yes.
To say the least.
Very.
So you said how many years in law enforcement?
It'll be 16 this year.
16, yeah. So way more than me. I applaud you. So you obviously, we'll hit this real quick. How did you get involved with Operation Enduring Warrior before we kind of backtrack into what took place?
So a friend of mine who's a wounded veteran.
Scoot up to the mic a little bit, man. It keeps going in and out.
So a friend of mine who's a wounded veteran, he lives not too far from me. And before my incident, I knew of him, and he was doing all this crazy stuff with he had one leg on, so he was doing like all this crazy CrossFit and endurance competitions and marathons on a hand cycle. And after my incident, I got to befriend him even more, and he just he kind of, took my hand and said, I'm part of this Operation Enduring Warrior group, and they have done wonders for him. Would you like to get involved and be an honoree? And I said, yeah, okay, I'll give it a try. So I got involved that way through him.
And y'all are doing way more than I am with 2 legs, which makes me feel like a chump. Dude, the stuff that we kind of talked about it previously, the stuff that I've seen y'all do on these courses and the mat guys do on the courses is just, it's unreal. Like sometimes it just blows my mind in regards to the stuff y'all are doing. I mean, we were just talking about, and they had the Spartan race down here, and I guess he was like 91 years old running the race. Zach and I were talking about his dad did it at what?
65.
Yeah. And
crazy.
I did it like one time in college, and I just burpeed everything because I'd look at the rope and be like, nah. I'd look at the wall, nah. I'll just do burpees. Like, I'll tap out right now. But that's awesome, man. So let's go back to where are you originally from?
I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
So the office.
Yes, the office. That's what we're known as.
Yeah. That's literally all Scranton is.
That's it.
So how much of Scranton is the office? Like, is it just the entire town? That's what it's all about?
Yeah, basically.
Really?
Yep.
So stores, everything?
Everything. They even sell the bobbleheads everywhere, in different restaurants and everything that were, advertised on the office. They have, shirts, everything like that. Just office memorabilia, basically, throughout the whole city.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you put it there as the top 10 shows?
The funny thing is I didn't start watching it until maybe 2 years ago.
Well, to be honest, I didn't know Scranton was a real place until probably 2 years ago. Like, I had no idea it was a real town until somebody on the news. I think it was something with what's the president's name now?
Biden.
Yeah, Biden. Sorry, I'm really not sorry, but anyways, he was in Scranton or something. And I guess I realized that I didn't know it was a real place. So you wouldn't put that up there as a top 10 show?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like for a sitcom or something like that, definitely Office, Parks and Rec, those are
Yeah, but what's your number one?
probably The Office.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I put Seinfeld as number one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Do you put Friends anywhere in there?
No.
Really?
Oh, I mean, top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
Probably, but not, I wouldn't say, I don't really watch Friends. I do by association through my wife.
Yeah.
But outside of that, no. Seinfeld, I don't know. Sometimes it's a little too, I don't know, New York for me.
Oh,
I feel
come
like.
on. I like Seinfeld, bro.
It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm. I mean, I guess sometimes it's just that dumb comedy I need. Like, I don't want to have to think about my comedy, I just want to know it's comedy.
Yeah.
So what about you? Number one, Seinfeld?
Seinfeld, definitely.
Yeah. What's your number two?
I would say The Office is number 2 now.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. And I wonder if when they were creating this, if they even thought about that, if that was even going to be, their plan. But anyway, so that's where you're born and raised there?
Yes. Yep.
And so family in law enforcement or military?
No, neither.
So why were you so crazy enough to join
So I went to college. I took finance and economics at a university.
You were the smart one that didn't do criminal justice like me?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Although now I regret it. I should have did criminal justice. I would have saved a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
But going into college, I didn't know. I was kind of looking into the military, and I remember my father saying, what's going on right now with the war? You could come back, you could be killed, you could come back wounded, et cetera, et cetera. He goes, you're safer if you go to college. And
how ironic is that where you're sitting
yeah,
now?
very ironic.
What
yes.
year was that?
That was 2001 to 2005.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was,
Things started to
pick up.
Sure.
Yep.
How old are you?
39.
How old are you?
32.
Yeah. It's
Awkward science. Cool. That's our ages. I don't even know how old I am. 35? What am I now? 35? Cool.
Yeah,
I just lose track.
I gotta
You
ask
lose
my
track
wife.
after
Yeah. I stopped. I mean, at what point? For guys, I stopped counting age. So you go so then what happens after college?
So, it was like my junior year. I was going for interviews at these like financial firms and companies in New York City and Philadelphia, and I'm like, I got to do more with my life than just sit here and crunch numbers behind a desk all day. Like, I need to be proactive. So it was like around my junior year in college, I started testing to go into the state police, Pennsylvania State Police, and basically, I went right through the testing and passed. And right when I graduated, I literally took my last final on like a Friday, and I went into the State Police Academy on Sunday. So it was pretty quick transition, and I just made a career out of it.
And as because I know here that like the stadies, I don't know, state troopers, whatever you want to call them, like their academy's a bitch.
Ours is
Same
very
with-
difficult. Yes.
So y'all live in barracks there?
Yes, so our academy's in Hershey, Pennsylvania. We spend 28 weeks of training down there. I think it's like every other weekend we got to go home, but most of the time it's your full time living down there at the academy.
In Hershey.
Yes.
So, and I just learned that that's actually a place too. And that's where Hershey chocolate's made.
Sweetest place on earth.
I'm not that educated. Zach. So
We're all learning together.
yeah, we're learning together. We learn these things. So I assume then you go to field training, and were you on the road the entire all 16 years?
I was, yes. I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities within our department. Forensics, criminal investigations. But I was what they call a road patrol trooper.
Did you have a cowboy hat?
We have the campaign hats, as they're called, the drill sergeant Marine Corps.
Okay, all right, cool. I mean, I knew there was a hat included
Yeah.
somewhere.
There's
There's always
always
a
Stady?
hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the interesting thing you and I were talking about, and it's probably the same case for a lot of the troops here in Texas with DPS and stuff, is we talk about the backup, situation and how far out guys are. But I honestly, bro, I like when you were saying like, is here, and I correct me if I'm wrong for any of our state guys listening, like there's a few, counties here, but there's still county guys like that are backing up the troops, right? So a troop may be alone for 45 minutes to an hour, but at least he knows a guy coming back may be another troop or a county sheriff guy. For you were saying that like it may just be you and your partner on midnights alone with no backup from a county guy at all. And you've got to drive 1.5 hours from one side to the other side.
And that's what we got stuck with. I mean, there's different counties throughout the state that do have, like the county that I live in, Lackawanna County, there's a lot of full-time local police departments that would back up the troopers. We're mostly highway at that barracks. But the barracks that I worked out of, Pike County, it was very rural. We were the only police department covering that area. So you're right, like we talked about it. I mean, we could be at a domestic call up north and get called to another call down south, and it would take us like 1.5 hours or so to get to it, and it's only the two of you in one car. So.
Two of yous. I like that.
Two.
I feel like we need to go bash somebody's head in when somebody says something like that. Two of yous. Like, I'm going to slap you in the face. The two of yous. Can't even do it. It's great. So 1.5 hours. And the other interesting thing is, and I don't even know, I mean, I don't know if you know, co-host, y'all rode 2-man. So for our mids, y'all did ride 2-man. So there's that. I don't know if that even takes place here. And I would hope maybe nowadays that some of these places are putting 2-man, especially if you're having to drive 1.5 hours with no backup.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you this. What about like, and I'm sure we'll get into this in a little bit, but like a tactical operation, something big happens, y'all are handling that for however long.
Yeah, we'd be the first ones on the scene and stay there, secure the scene or whatever until, other troopers came or got called in, basically on overtime.
And so at night, and so how many years are you on the job before you're shot?
I was on 9 years.
9 years. And so let's go, if you don't mind. I mean, you assumed we were going to talk about it. But,
Of course.
Yeah. So we fast forward. You've obviously, I would consider you a senior officer at that point, like, a seasoned officer. What is the rule of thumb? Like after 5 years, you've at least probably handled enough calls to know, okay, I got my bearings. So walk us through that night.
So September 12th.
Because there's always something crazy, like you weren't supposed to be working or somebody was supposed to be off and something. So I'm interested in that.
And there was crazy stuff like that went on, not specifically with myself, but, unfortunately a trooper that was shot that night, I don't think he was supposed to actually work. He was switched with somebody else. So it is crazy, but yeah, that's usually the case. You're right. But it was September 12th of 2014. We were going through a shift change. So we had a 3 to 11 shift leaving the barracks, and we were just coming on from the 11 to 7 shift, midnights. And there's 4 of us that were working that night. We actually had 2 cars on, 4 troopers. I was in uniform. I worked a construction zone that previous morning. So our supervisor said, just take the car home, stay in uniform.
Like a side job, part-time, OT?
Yeah, it was definitely overtime, And they said, take the car home keep your uniform on, and just come back up for the midnight shift.
Like, don't even change. You got to sleep in it.
Yeah, basically. Keep your shoes on. Don't
keep
take
your shoes on. It's such a trooper thing.
And,
sleep in your hat.
Yeah. And so basically, I drove 3 of the other guys up in the marked patrol car. I was the only one in uniform. When we got up to the barracks, it was about 10 to 11. Those other 3 troopers went inside to change in the locker room, and I was outside. Going back a little bit, I was a huge marathon runner. I ran marathons almost like every year, and I was actually training for one coming up in October. And so I was training with a friend of mine. So that morning, it was a Friday night, but Saturday morning I was supposed to go running with him.
Because that's what you like to do on your day
Yeah.
off. I'm going to go run 26 miles today on a Saturday.
Yeah. There was a time where maybe like 3.
Yeah, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5 miles.
yeah.
I'll even give you 5.
Yeah.
Once you start running past 5 miles, bro, you're just batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that too at the end. Don't worry. But yeah, so I was switching a gym bag that I had into my own personal vehicle in the parking lot, and I just heard what sounded like fireworks going off, 2 of them. And, long story short, there's a guy that actually sold fireworks right down the street. And, being shortly after Labor Day weekend, I was thinking he was just lighting the fireworks off. So no big deal. But as I looked up in front of our barracks, which was located on the front of like a top of a little hill from where the parking lot was, I noticed somebody laying down in front of the front doors. And all I'm thinking is,
So this is on y'all's police property.
yes, right in front of the barracks, on the barracks property at the station. And all I'm thinking about, and as you probably would have thought the same thing, the previous shift brought a DUI case in. And what we would do is process that person in the barracks, let them sit in the lobby until they called for a ride, for somebody to pick them up. And that's what I thought they did, and they just left the guy unintended, and he wandered outside.
Just passed out drunk. Yeah, cool.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And I'm like, no, I got to deal with this, So as I'm walking and I'm approaching, getting closer, I noticed it was one of our troopers in uniform laying there. So as I got even closer, I noticed he had a gunshot wound to the upper part of his chest, and then what appeared to be out of his shoulder line, right out of his one of his shoulders. And, he appeared deceased to me. But again, I didn't know if what exactly happened. Did he commit suicide? But as I saw the wounds, that you kind of figured it was kind of hard to do that. So I took my weapon out, and the first thing I could think of is I got to get him inside the barracks. So as I leaned down to grab his foot to drag him in, I got shot right through the left side of my back, and the round actually came through my right hip. So it actually shattered like part of my pelvis, and I dropped instantly, because it felt like somebody hit me with a baseball bat. And I actually pushed myself through. We had 2 glass doors in the front of our station, and I actually pushed myself right through the glass. And I don't know to this day what made me think that, because what to do at that point. But all I was thinking about is that somebody's across the street, or multiple people are across the street, and they're shooting at us from that direction. So our barracks, the inside of our barracks is cinder block, kind of just like this building. And the only thing I could think of is to get into our lobby, there is another door to get into our station inside the lobby. But if I, drag myself straight across, they could still see me, and they'll probably take another shot at me. So I actually crawled to the left side of the inside of the barracks, that building, the lobby, and actually, crawled right around. And then 2 other troopers came through the door, and they quickly dragged me inside, shut the door, and I started telling them what was going on. But, moving a little forward, there was the individual that was shooting at us. He actually said and admitted that if he was waiting for me to crawl across the lobby floor in his sight, and he would have taken another shot. So, like I said, you're not trained for an incident like that. We weren't trained like that. So I don't know. It's just pure instinct to make that decision and crawl across. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
How many guys are, keep referring them to barracks, which I guess is twofold, because barracks are also your area of responsibility, as well as actually where y'all, like your headquarters station.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How many guys are there at that time?
So like I said, that was a shift change. So we probably had, I want to say maybe like 15 guys maybe there that night. As some guys already left, because their shift was over. But
And so how long were y'all, literally pinned down?
After I got shot, we didn't know if that, individual was still out there. So, a couple other guys got into one of our patrol cars, pulled around to the front of the barracks, kind of cover fired, and pulled the other trooper's body inside that way. But it went on all night because they didn't know who was out there or what was going on.
Did he pop shots any more times after hitting you?
No, that was it.
Okay.
So what actually happened was, and again, during the interview with the individual, he admitted that he was expecting multiple troopers to come outside through the front door to help that other trooper that was shot, and he was going to continue to assassinate, basically, those troopers. What happened, I was down on the lower end of the parking lot and came up to the side of the building, so I actually surprised him. And he actually flinched, and that's why, I think he was going for upper body or headshots, basically. And he flinched when he saw me, got scared. And then when I crawled into the lobby, he actually got even more scared because I disappeared, and he knew I was still alive. So he took off at that point. So it was shortly after I crawled into the lobby that he took off. But we didn't know that.
Yeah.
We didn't know that.
What was this dude's deal?
So he wanted to start a government revolution.
Sure.
Anti-police, anti-military, anti-government, basically. And he supposedly it was embedded in his head at a very young age through his father. And his father would drop him off in the middle of a wooded area when he was, I don't even know how old he was, maybe like 10 or 12 or something. And basically just leave him out there and say, find your way home. So he would try to survive. But, the funny thing is they made him out to seem like he was this big survivalist and stuff, but he really wasn't, He was breaking into cabins and stuff like that and eating their food in the cabins
So he
and
was just
taking
a
a
bear.
shower and
He
shaving.
was just a bear.
He was an
Yeah,
opportunist.
he was just an opportunist, yeah.
Exactly. But moving forward, he was actually, when he took off, he was on the run for 48 days. Nobody could find him. And we had multi-agencies up there. Even like Border Patrol came up with a Black Hawk, with their infrared and heat censoring. And, it took 48 days to actually track him and find him.
Damn. So you got anything on that, Zach?
No, it's just going back, what you're talking about, like your instinct, that's, I guess my experience is, overseas. And it's funny when you look at certain scenarios afterwards, how a natural instinct just is a game changer and within that scenario, because like you said, you scared the guy, but because he never saw you again and he took off.
Yep.
If you would have crossed that, obviously he probably would have shot you and then continued, so
Absolutely, yeah.
Just that natural instinct that you don't really understand in the moment can be a huge, shift in how things work out, in a scenario or a bad situation.
Let me ask you this, and I'm not meaning this offensively when I ask this because, it's a station, so that's kind of like where our guards let down a little bit anyways, right? Like, you're supposed to feel, probably not nowadays, but, that's how many years ago now?
7.
In 7 years, law enforcement has changed drastically.
Absolutely.
And so 7 years ago, I probably went into my station multiple times. I remember, and just, I'm safe, right?
Yeah, you let your guard down.
Yeah. So do you feel like your guard was down at that point?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any guilt for that day?
I did originally. I had that survivor's guilt, but not now.
Because I asked this, like, what could you have done different?
And in my mind, I didn't have any regrets that I did something wrong or I could have changed.
Right.
Because
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, really? You don't know. You have a rational reasoning on fireworks, right? Like
Yes.
And so there's really not much you could have done else different because you don't know what it is until you get up there.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I have no regrets. I think in my mind, I did everything I had to do and could have done at that point. I did have the regret that I couldn't get that other trooper inside the lobby. I had to leave him out there, but I couldn't do anything else about it.
Was anybody else shot that night or during the hunt?
No, fortunately.
And how did he get caught alive? That's what I don't understand about these fucking idiots is, you put up this fight, you do the cowardice thing, right?
Yep.
But then you don't want to face it like a man at the end of the rope. Like, come on, bro. Like, you want to bring it. I mean, if you want to be this anti-government, you want to spout this.
Go all the way.
Yeah, go all the way, man. Be committed.
Yep.
But nobody else got shot during the hunt or anything?
No, fortunately, no.
And did you watch any of the interviews of him whenever he was taken into custody?
I didn't. I was, I was in the hospital about 3 months. For the first month, I was like in and out of medical-induced comas, so I didn't really know too much that was going on. It was just the information I was receiving was from troopers that would just come and visit me and fill me in on what was kind of going on.
Do you remember, so from when you're dragged into the barracks and you're there and y'all are pinned down essentially, how long is it before you get medical help?
It was actually pretty quick. So 2 troopers started, doing medical treatment on myself immediately. And one of our troopers actually carried, and you would know the name specifically. It's quick wound?
Quick clot?
Yeah,
At the
quick
time,
clot.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
So he had actually carried one of those because he was actually a vet, and he carried one of those. So that actually helped me out pretty good. But the ambulance.
And do you remember all this?
Oh yeah,
You're conscious
yeah.
this whole time?
Yeah, surprisingly, yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Because I would have thought, especially in that junction, the amount of arteries and everything there, you would have started losing consciousness with the amount of blood loss.
I was losing a lot of blood, but for some reason I remember pretty much
crazy.
everything.
It's because he's a marathon runner.
Yeah. Here he comes. This is why you run.
That's where it came
2,700
in.
miles
Yeah.
a day. Yeah.
So you can lose all your blood and you're still fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our resting heartbeat is 2.
Heart's still
Yeah.
pumping.
Yeah. So you're conscious. You're remembering all this. What are you thinking?
When I first got into the lobby, like I said, I couldn't feel my legs, so I was thinking originally I'm paralyzed. And again, going back to running, how would I be able to run again? Something that I really enjoyed doing if I'm paralyzed. So it was just kind of crazy stuff in the heat of the moment that was going through my mind. Not really important stuff in a sense, but just crazy thoughts. I never really thought. I thought I got hit in the legs. So we see on the movies and everything like that, you're gonna survive. You get hit in an arm or a leg, but you don't realize too. Like you said, they hit the area where I got hit actually carries a significant amount of blood. So I was bleeding pretty good, and I didn't realize it. And when I was actually transported to the hospital, see, the ambulance wouldn't come in initially because
That's why I was wondering like how long you were there, because it's a hot zone at that point.
Other troopers came on scene. They just started laying cover fire right into the wooded area where we suspected that individual was at the time. And then finally the ambulance came in. I think it wasn't, for me, fortunately, it wasn't too long. I want to say like 15 minutes maybe, but it seemed a lot longer.
Yeah, well, with that injury.
You get your femoral artery right there. And
Yeah.
I mean, I broke my hip one time. What you were saying, how you thought you were paralyzed, is I broke my, I didn't even know it, but I couldn't lift my leg, and I couldn't figure out in my head why I couldn't lift my leg. So I can, understand how, what's going on.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. But as they had to actually life flight me in the helicopter to the nearby hospital, and that's when the pain started setting in. I started feeling my left leg, and I'm like, all right, thank God I'm not paralyzed.
Yeah.
I still couldn't feel anything with my right, but paralyzed, you're both. You're waist down. You can't feel.
Are you married at this point?
No, I'm not. Okay. No. And so they, like I said, I remember the whole entire flight to the hospital, and then finally they just put me out. At that point though, the pain was just excruciating.
Yeah.
I think shock was initial.
Oh yeah, sure.
And that's why the pain wasn't that bad, but then it started wearing off. And got bad.
That's crazy. So going back to the suspect, where did he end up getting found? I think I've read this, but he was somewhere near there, right?
Yeah, he stayed in the area pretty much. It was the next county down south, but it was just like over the border. He wasn't, like I said, it wasn't that far. I want to say, and don't quote me on this, I want to say it was like maybe like 30, 35 miles from where he initially started this nonsense. But it was actually a abandoned airplane hangar where he was found. And the U.S. Marshals actually found him there. It was just happened to be where their zone was placed on the grid, because they mapped out different grids and different areas where they would think that he could be.
Yeah.
And they just happened to be in that grid, and they saw him walking out of the woods. And, of course, he was unarmed, so they couldn't really do too much. They tuned him up a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a fugitive unit, bro. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
There were no cameras there.
Yeah, stop resisting.
Yeah. Stop resisting.
Yep.
I don't condone that. Yeah, that's the other thing. He was mentioning something. This is how you know you're in a rural environment. The trooper started laying down cover fire.
Yeah.
Like we're not laying down. I mean, I can name some times that it would, it could take place, but in a city, like I can't just like do suppressive fire,
Yeah, it's not
All
make
these houses
movement.
are kids riding bicycles up the street.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it shows you how different that is, man. And the fact that you're still here, dude, honestly, to be shot where you were and everything and in such a rural environment. And when you said 15 minutes for response, I thought you would have been there hours and they just stabilized. And
Yeah, no, fortunately, I would have been definitely dead if it was much longer. Even when I got to the hospital, I coded twice, is what they said. And going back to the running,
Yeah, there you go.
they said if I didn't run, my heart wouldn't be that strong. And
yeah, but you can also argue that, all the pain meds, if you don't drink as much,
That's true, too.
it's like, you're less
That's
susceptible.
true, too.
So, there's arguments for both no running and then,
Let him have his marathon.
yeah, that's
running.
true. Let him have it. I'll let you have it. No, dude, if I could go and run 26 miles and if I had the discipline, I'd love to do it. I'd like to try it, but bro.
when I said I was going to follow up with that, when you initially said that, here's the thing. I don't miss it. I did like a year or two after my injury, but I do not miss that now. And I 100% agree with you when you say anything more than like a 5K, like a 3.5 miles, there's no rhyme or reason behind it.
I just get so bored.
Yes.
Like I get
Too
so
ADD.
bored, dude. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like my wife, she loves running like that, and I just don't like. I don't know what people think about. Like, and this whole it's orgasmic. I get a high whenever I running when I hit that 20. Like, no, that's just you nearly dying. Like that's
you.
That's not you having an orgasm. That's just you nearly dying.
That's
Your
you.
body
I can't feel
rejected.
my legs. I can't feel anything.
Yeah, it's euphoric. No, it's not. So, did you have that feeling?
No, I felt like I was dying after every one of them.
That's what I'm saying.
My
Like,
wife just ran New York City Marathon.
that was last week.
Last
right?
weekend, yeah. And she's funny. She did it for a charity for individuals with disabilities. And she called me. Of course, I'm sitting at a bar. You know what I mean? Waiting
Yeah,
for
she's
it.
running the
See, that's
marathon.
great.
I'm
And she
love it,
calls
yeah.
me, and
I support
she's
that.
yeah. She has me like FaceTime out, on FaceTime, and she's
While she's running?
Yeah, while she's running, and she's like, she looked like she was dying, and I'm like, I think she was at mile 18 or something like that, and I'm like, after I got off the phone with her, I'm like, yeah, I don't miss that at all. Like she looked horrible, and I felt bad for her.
Like these people that come across the line smiling in these races and stuff. And dude, okay, the marathon's one thing. Now you've got these other ones, the ultras, the supers, which are what-
Ironmans.
Like the 100
that-
miles.
Yeah,
yeah.
130 miles and stuff. And like, it was a guy that I used to work with, and he actually got shot. He was an Ironman athlete, and he would do like these 150-mile bike rides. And I'm like, okay, it's a bike, right? Like, come on. I mean, 1 mile on a bike's like 2 minutes, right? Like, this is easy. 150 miles ain't no joke, bro. Like anything past, like when we start getting into triple digits of anything, is just nuts.
Yeah. Especially depending on elevation or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, but you're able to, it was positive for you in that sense. And we're saying, we
It
joke
worked
a
out
lot.
for me,
We
yeah.
joke a lot. Physical fitness obviously has a huge impact in recovery and everything. But dude, what's crazy is that it's not the end of your story.
No.
So explain to me, so you how many years after you have the amputation?
So that happened in 2014. It was 2018. I never regained mobility in my right leg. It was so what happened when the bullet came through, it actually hit my sciatic nerve on that side, and I had a condition called drop foot. So I couldn't pick up my ankle. Anything below my knee, the calf was deteriorating. It was like the size of my wrist, and it was just all blue. I was getting, if you're familiar with what they call phantom pain, so if you can't feel an appendage, but you could feel that your fingers or your toes are still there and they're moving, but they're not. That's like phantom pain. And I was getting like a ridiculous amount of phantom pain, even though I couldn't feel anything. So my surgeon was, he's like, sooner or later, you're probably going to have this amputated. So
Is that said to you from the beginning? So from obviously your initial consults with doctors and surgeon, is that already being discussed with you?
Not initially. What happened initially was when that bullet came through, like I said, it hit the sciatic nerve and it also shattered my right hip. And one of my surgeons didn't know if they were going to be able to repair that hip. And he never actually said it, but he goes, if we can't repair it, we got to do something else. And I'm assuming that he meant an amputation like above the knee, like high up. So
what were you shot with, by the way? Sorry.
Oh, it was a 308.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty large round.
Yeah.
So going to all these different doctors and everything, there was actually 3 of them that agreed upon, let's do the amputation. You're going to be much better off, especially with...
But years after.
Yeah, so this was 2018, so it was 4 years after.
So how long before the amputation is it being approached to you? And the reason I'm asking is, obviously, I can't imagine, right? But did you have? It wasn't like you went in and it was amputated. It was a decision that was taking place over a course of time. So did you come to terms with it? Was it your decision? How was your mind working that going up to that?
So yeah, I would say it was probably around 2016 when the first discussions came out about doing it. But within those 2 years from the discussions to actually having it amputated, I was mentally preparing myself. It was ultimately my decision to have it done. But I knew I was going to be better off with it. So that was 2018. I ended up having December 12th, 2018.
So do you feel as if, and I'm only asking this, I'm curious. I've met, talked with, hung out with several amputees and everything, but I've never asked this question because I don't want to, if it's too personal, man, I get it. But do you feel like that was more, that was scarier than the incident?
For me, no.
No?
No. And as strange as this may sound, it's a personal thing for me. It was like a huge relief to have my leg amputated.
Explain that.
So like I said, I had so much more phantom pain and, just besides the physical pain, I was going through a lot of mental pain too, which is having the leg. I would have to get all these different types of leg braces. Half of them wouldn't even fit in sneakers and shoes. And for me, it was just, it bothered me, So when I had it amputated, there was even for a good year probably after, I'd wake up every now and then and be like, oh, did I really have the leg amputated? And I'm like, I did. What a relief. It's weird.
Really?
Yeah, bizarre. But for me, it was a huge relief, not just physical, but mental too.
You have anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, especially going through all that pain, is just you kind of ready to move on, and if, especially if, it's not getting any better, and it's only getting worse. I'm sure it's like giant monkey to have off of your back.
And that's what my doctor said, basically. They're like, we're at a standstill here. You have you guys are military. So
Yeah, he is. I wasn't.
They had this brace they came out with called the IDEO for veterans who had similar injuries like I had. And it was this huge leg brace thing. And it was the best thing at the time, state of the art. But it just wasn't working for me.
Sure.
And so besides that, even my surgeon said to me, he goes, listen, there's no guarantee that we're going to get rid of this pain that you're going to have. If we do it, you could, have the same amount of pain, you could have more, or you could have none. It doesn't matter. And when we took that gamble, knock on wood, that I have almost zero pain, zero phantom pain, let's put it that way, that I had before. So for me, it was, in my opinion, great decision.
Absolutely.
So going back to the mental aspect of it, we've got a lot of law enforcement listening to the show, just the nature of it, but in general, overcoming. And the reason I asked you about, was it harder to face the amputation than the shooting? Because so much of the time we hear it from the military guys, the amputation happened at the source of,
that's
the
usually
attack,
the case.
or, they were unconscious, they wake up with it. So they're facing all of it at one time, right? So it's you've had to essentially revisit several years later. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, cool. I was able to focus on the PTS from, if you had PTS from it, I'm just using this as an example, from the incident. And then now, man, here I am, I'm having another incident of losing a leg.
Because of that initial one.
Yeah, because of it. So now we're recapping all this. We're faced with this. So how did you face that mentally?
So, like, again, a lot of, tragic circumstances, say car accidents, or, a lot of the veterans, in a sense, if they hit an IED or whatever, it's instant. Like, I know that with a bunch of my friends. They had no choice. They had no thought pattern. That's it. Your leg's gone or your arm's gone. That's it, So I think for those guys, it's definitely a lot harder mentally to, try to straighten out or get back to normal because it's such a shock at that initial point in time. For me, I was able for at least the 2 years, think it over, kind of actually prepare myself for it. I remember the whole year before I was, in my shower and I would hop around on one leg, trying to prepare and trying to get myself strengthened up to prepare for the amputation and thereon after, So it actually, for me, I had a quick recovery. And I think it was because I had that time to prepare both mentally and physically.
Did you suffer with a lot of PTSD? Because, dude, I would be thinking like walking out to a parking lot anywhere, I'd be like,
oh yeah,
fucking like.
Yeah, it's still to this day, our specific station or barracks, I was up there not even maybe a handful of times after, so that's 7 years we're going on. But I still can't walk out in front of that station just because of that mindset that I have, or into the lobby of that station. I've been in the station, but I go through a back door. I don't go, and
Did they put this guy to death?
So yeah, he got the death penalty, but our governor doesn't acknowledge the death penalty,
Sure.
so we have to wait.
We can transfer him down here to Texas.
If he would already been done.
Oh yeah,
by a rope,
bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. I guarantee you, knowing some of the teams up here, that guy probably wouldn't have lived.
Well, even and our guys, we had a lot of New York troopers, New Jersey troopers, since we were bordering those two states. We had multiple agencies from all over that came up to help us, and I know a lot of guys said, if we found him, he would have been having a stick in his hand, and he would have been done.
But here's the other thing, the other aspect of that. Just recently I can't talk about that, but when you catch a guy that's been on the run from an incident like that, shooting at the cops, or these guys that declare allegiance to whatever it may be, sometimes it's very interesting to, like, that's why I was wondering if you had listened to the interviews, like getting in their mindset of that. I've always been very fascinated by that. The mindset of a killer or somebody that is so brazen that can take such an action, right? Because in normal society, we look at that action so egregious, right?
Well, that's like, I was thinking that I went hunting a couple weeks ago in New York, and every time I would shoot a deer, I love hunting, but every time I would shoot a deer, you would have that weird feeling after that you took the life. You took the life, even though it's an animal or a deer, you still have that feeling. And when I was sitting in the deer stand and I did that, I'm like, thank God I have this feeling, because that's normal.
Yeah.
But somebody to take a human life and have no remorse, or,
And
continue to take more than one life.
Yeah, and what's crazy is we're not talking, like even within the military or in law enforcement, and when you're faced with that decision to have to pull a trigger, there's usually a reason, right? Like, we're protecting our brother, protecting our life. But for somebody like this person, it's just to pick up a rifle and go pick up a sniper position and start taking lives
and not even think about it. Yeah.
I mean, his reasoning is just as real as yours would be.
That's
though,
true,
in
and
his mind.
that's what I'm talking about. The psychology of that, the psychosis of that. Sometimes it's interesting. As much as you want the revenge, right? And I know nowadays that's not politically correct, but let's face it. I guarantee you wanted revenge.
Absolutely.
I mean,
100%.
Any human being, a victim of a crime, at some point wants revenge to go, I want what you did to me to happen to you, right?
For an intentional crime, yeah.
For an intentional crime, right? But there's a point of it that it's like getting inside their head to see that side of things is very interesting, because I can't comprehend that, but for them, that is a very real thing.
Well, somebody did tell me, one of the investigators said that he actually thought I I guess he would sit. Now, this guy was 30 years old, lived in his parents' house in the basement. So he's one of those people.
So, I mean, that's
Yeah,
pretty
and
typical of everybody online these days.
Yeah, and would play video games all day long. So he had the mindset that this was a video game for him, if you could kind of comprehend that.
Yeah.
Like, he
Yeah.
was stuck in that mindset.
His mind was conditioned to
Play like a video game. Like, I think they said he actually thought, like, Corporal Dickson, who was killed, they actually... I think in his mind, he thought he was like coming back, like you get shot and be fine afterwards, like kind of that mindset almost. So,
he's got another respawn.
It's an interesting thing because, and we start to, not to get like political in it, but you start to think about what ramifications are we having in society when we're creating that norm at such a young age now, right? Like. I played video games growing up, but like I'd much rather be outside.
Exactly.
And now that's becoming less and less of the norm, right? Like,
well, we talked about this earlier with the kids. Like, our girls are involved in 3 different soccer leagues each and now basketball. And we would rather them do that than sit home and play on their tablets or, play video games. And because of this incident that I was involved in, I personally can't stand video games right now. But no, the same thing. And I played them too when I was a kid. I'd sit in the computer and play them, but I would enjoy more being outside and playing baseball.
And let's face it, we cannot argue with the fact, because here's the deal. The video games that you and I played growing up, Duck Hunter and, like
Deer
the
Hunter
real,
and everything.
the real video games, right? Are not, what we're seeing in society. Bro, you've been in the military. You could draw some similarities in some of these games out there.
The military does use games like that for training purposes. And the funny thing is, a lot of them are way shittier versions of like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept. Is you're using a video game or a simulation to condition somebody to
desensitize.
Yeah, to desensitize, condition them to have an act of violence towards another human being.
But as you're saying too, Brad, I know where you're going, that some of these games today, like I know one of them, I don't even know the name of it, but I knew our girls played it, and I told them, get off it. It was basically, you would have a sheriff, you would have a murderer, and that's what they were called in the game, and you'd have a civilian, and they would try to kill the sheriff. That was the intent.
That is a great song. I shot the sheriff.
Crazy.
That's the normalization, and that's what we're faced with. To where and this was how many years ago now? 7 years ago. Even in 7 years, bro. In my tenure as an officer, the paradigm shift in law enforcement is nuts. We went from MDTs to MDCs to cameras, or from no cameras to cameras to body cameras to we had MapsGo. I don't know if you remember MapsGo. Like we didn't have GPS. Like it was like, please respond to 92F, and it was like
licking your thumb and like
grid. Yeah,
it was like 92F. All right,
it was like playing Battleship.
Yeah,
it's like shit. I took that page out.
Yes, exactly. I remember like certain things we would laminate just to be able to go like, okay, please respond to 82F. That is no longer, and so now our society is faced with this complete paradigm shift to where now we're hating law enforcement. They're playing video games at this. And to me, it's not even about the law enforcement. You want to hate cops, hate cops. I really don't give a shit. At the end of the day, it's hating authority.
Yes.
And so we're creating hatred for authority and leadership, which then what is it teaching our kids, right? Anyways.
Lack of accountability, first of all.
Yeah.
But the kids are going to think the same way, and their kids are going to think it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, it's we're definitely at a crossroads in society, I think, and it's kind of weird which way it's going to go.
And then to talk about this, and I forgot to mention the sponsors of today's episodes, which I completely suck. So Triarch Systems, Tech Fish, and Denny Law Group. We'll mention them all again at the thing. But going back to for example, Triarch Systems, firearms industry. We go and people start to blame the firearms industry, right? You could very well blame whatever 308 was for being on the market at that time. And if you do, I apologize. And I don't disagree with you. But how does that make sense when, let's go to the root of the problem, the guy playing video games where he's desensitizing himself to death and murder or his childhood to mental health. What was he faced with?
And the parents allowing.
The parents allowing it, right? So what is the real issue? And so when we go back to it, I still believe that a lot of this in our culture starts at home.
Oh, absolutely.
100% starts at home, and it starts with our kids. And if you're not instilling that now, then I'm not surprised when they get a hold of a gun and they go, let me go take this life, right? Because nowadays it's the easy way out. Because they look at that and go, I can just respawn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
Got off on a
shitty
tangent
parents.
there. Yeah.
You know,
No,
shitty
I
parents
agree.
raise shitty kids, and then shitty kids raise more shitty kids.
Yeah,
and then,
it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, there's always the outliers. You know, somebody raised by a pastor or somebody, you know, and they're bad seed, right? Like,
Sure.
but I go back to what were they surrounding themselves with,
Yeah.
right? Like you're as good as you surround yourself with, right?
yeah, well, and there's also been, I mean, to be fair, there's been plenty of people that had poor parenting that have overcome that.
Exactly.
But, you know, it's also an outlier. So it's, you know, in generality, if you have a poor upbringing, you're going to
Yeah.
be a less effective member of society, right? So you're right. We have to figure out a way to be more effective in the home, you know?
Yeah. So going back to, and we got off on a tangent there, but I like tangents. This is why I told
Me
you I
too.
don't script shit, dude.
Entertaining.
You know, it's interesting, man, and it's I like to pick, you know, a person's brain when it comes to the mindset of stuff. How has your mindset in life changed from the amputation to now? Because now let's go back to when you had your leg amputated. It's a whole new world.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've
A whole new
prepared
way
yourself.
of life,
Yeah, a
yeah.
whole new way of life. You've prepared yourself in somewhat, which seems to be an advantage in your, but still you're faced with this. How does the mindset of what you went through prepared you for facing that?
So when I
And,
was
and let me say this: I don't want, when I say amputation, I do not look at that as a disability to me. And so when I ask that question, I'm not approaching it as a sense of
Absolutely.
like,
I agree.
But I just preface that because it's a change.
So,
in
you
your
know,
life.
yeah. So, you know, even going back even further from just the amputation, from, you know, basically right after the incident happened, my mindset was, you know, really off the wall when it initially happened, because all I'm thinking about is, you know, I can't run again. There's a lot of stuff I can't do. And, you know, I wanted to wear a uniform again. That was my thing. I liked my job. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed being around people, and I'm not going to be able to wear a uniform again or be part of that team. You know, my whole thing was being part of a team. Like, even when you're in the military, you get injured, you're done. Like, you're medically retired, and you don't see those guys really anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because-
even when you're, you know, just temporarily injured, it can be a huge mental,
Absolutely, yeah.
just being pulled from that support system.
Just for even a short time
Yeah,
period. But
yeah. So permanently is even,
Yeah, and that could contribute to probably why the suicide rate is pretty high for especially veterans. You know,
Yeah, veterans or police, you know, officers that are injured and stuff like that. I mean, it's,
Well, I think we do a good job as a society, not in a positive way, of segregating that group into, and that's why I said I don't look at it as a disability, right? Because I think as society we do a bad job of like these injured people, these wounded warriors, which I'm glad there's organizations out there, but to me they're human and they're American, they're people,
Everyone's-
and it's no different. And so that's why sometimes I don't like when we draw differentiation, because to me it may seem as if we're putting them back in a team, but we're maybe segregating them that way. Did you feel like that?
well, that's, you know, for, like I said, going back a little bit, like I wanted to wear the uniform again. I wanted to be part of a team, and then, you know, once I had the leg amputated, that's kind of where my life really changed, and it changed, as crazy as this might sound, it changed for the positive. I think that was really holding me back. And then when I had the leg amputated, again, like I said, my friend got me involved with Operation Enduring Warriors. And ever since then, it was like, wow, I'm part of a team again, because that's how these guys are. You know, we do these endurance competitions or, you know, events like this podcast, but you're part of a team, you're part of a group again. And that really got my mindset back in that positive track that, you know, and my theory too is I always thought, oh, you know, to be a hero, you have to wear a uniform. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, those are the guys I know. Like, it's easy.
Like
you grow up.
firefighters,
Yeah, you grow up. You see
anyone.
guys in uniform, that's a hero.
that's a hero. Yes. And I quickly learned that you don't have to wear a uniform to, you know, to serve basically. You you could serve in many other ways, and like that's part of like our motto, like with Operation Enduring Warriors and Task Force Sentinel. They serve us, you know what I mean, as being part of that group and helping us out in many different ways, But it's not even like with our organization, and I've said this before to other people, that it's not even being, doing these actual endurance competitions or different events. It's meeting new people and sharing those stories. And surprisingly, a lot of them are similar. Like for myself, like I'm not a veteran, but there were veterans that I met that were shot the same exact way as I was, just overseas.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy how you could share, but you become friends. It's like your comrades.
Yeah.
And
it's
like-minded
it's
individuals.
being like part of that unit again.
Yeah.
So going back, I think since I had the leg amputated, it actually was mentally, like I said, a positive outlook, and it continues to be. My life is, I can't complain. My life is very good right now. And it's because of like people like you guys or, and Operation Enduring Warriors, and
So when did you meet your wife?
So my wife, I met, it was before I had the leg amputated. I want to say 2017. We weren't married at the time. So she went through the whole leg amputation with me. It was kind of a funny story. So I just started getting back into like the gym mode after my injury, probably like 2016. And I would see, my wife worked at the gym. So I would see her once in a while and she'd be like, hey, how you doing? And then, a year would go by and I'm like, I wonder whatever happened to that girl. I haven't seen her at the gym. And then all of a sudden she popped up again. And then, we started dating at the time, but I knew she was right when she went through this whole leg amputation thing with me. And
that's what I was just fixing to say,
Yeah,
man.
I was like,
if you find somebody that goes through, I mean, how was that for her?
I mean, that's a life-changing thing for her. And we weren't even married at the time. So she had to realize, like, even if we did get married, you're going to be she's going to be dealing with me and my issues. You know what I mean? And not issues in a bad way, but I'm just saying amputation issues, or I'm not saying disability. I don't really use disability. Like, I'm going to have to adapt to different things around the house, and she's going to have to help me. So it's a strong burden on her too. And like I said, we were not even married. We probably knew each other. We were dating probably for a year before that. So
what's amazing though is you can use that as a test, because I mean, let's face it, we all face stuff and struggles in marriage. God knows my wife does. Being just married to me, that's a struggle enough for her. But to be able to face those shitty moments, right? And I mean, we haven't faced anything like that, but to face those hard moments only make you stronger moving forward. And so, and especially in your relationship, because you can say, well, we went through this. Well, we can face whatever we're faced with then. How difficult was that for her?
She's told me it was very difficult, and
because I assume it seems as if for you were probably more at peace at it than she probably was, right?
Yeah, it was
because
pretty much.
You've been dealing with it longer.
Exactly.
Coming, this was already coming for her. She pops up in your life, and so now she's just now having to deal with it.
Yeah, I think in her mind, it was like all of a sudden type thing. I mean, we were together for a year and we talked about it, but it was more all of a sudden than for me, because like I said, the talk started about 2016. So I had a couple of years before that to think about it and prepare. And for her, it was kind of just thrown on her lap, and she didn't know all the other medical stuff that was going on with me at the time either, just besides the leg. So she definitely had to deal with a lot at one time.
Were you above knee?
Below the knee.
And they didn't do the hip?
No. So luckily, in my case, they were able to do that hip replacement, and it set very well. And nothing. I mean, I still have some nerve issues, like up in my thigh area and hamstring on that side. If you see me walking, like I have a gait and stuff. But the worst parts were below the knee, so that's why they did below the knee. And they said if they could, for any leg amputation, if you could salvage the knee, you're way better off than doing above the knee, because you have that joint function.
So would you ever run a marathon again?
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Because I mean, you're doing races.
I might do it just to say I've done it, and that's it. Like one and done.
Isn't that what every marathon is?
One and done.
Yeah.
Just for my own personal. But I don't know. After seeing my wife run, And it wasn't just my wife. Like I said, I was sitting in a bar there at the finish line, and I'm sitting there, with a beer, and these poor guys, and ladies are coming through, and they're limping, and they're wrapped in like coats, and they're like, they can't even move, and I'm like,
Yeah, bro, like,
I'm like suckers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just drink a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I just, but like, I wonder. I know you said, you were, done with it, but I just like, is there not like a part of you that goes, like, could I do this?
And that's exactly, you nailed it right on the button. That's that would be I want to accomplish that because I want to know in my mind that I could do it, and the idiot that shot me isn't taking that fully away.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's nothing that's been taken from you.
Exactly.
Far from it.
From the outside looking in, I mean, it really hasn't slowed you down.
No.
If anything, it's almost like giving you a different pep in the sense of like you're doing more.
Yeah, I'm doing more now, and like I said, I do a lot of public speaking. I actually do it with my friend who's a wounded veteran that got me involved with.
He's a Green
OEW.
Beret, right?
No. His name's Earl Granville. He was a Army National Reservist. Okay. He's above the knee amputee, and he, we do a lot of public speaking together, and this is kind of our way of serving our, community is letting these kids know that you could take like a negative situation and make it into a positive one. Don't let anything hold you back. Keep moving forward, kind of.
Keep pushing forward.
Yep.
The interesting thing, dude, to be honest, like, I've talked to a lot of guys that have been shot and heard different stories. We've all sat through the conferences and the trainings and stuff and heard these stories. Bro, I don't really see, like, you haven't really said a lot of negative. Were you all, and I'm a negative person. If anybody that knows me, I rather think negative because then if it happens,
and you're okay with it.
I'm okay with it. If it doesn't, I mean, if something good happens, it's more exciting to me. It's like Christmas, right? Yeah. But if I think about it, and I know that's fucking horrible. But were you always a positive person?
No.
Or did this kind of change that?
This changed it. And like I said, initially, probably the first 2 years, I was very negative, like really down in the dumps. And what also kind of changed it for me, one of our state troopers, he was out in the western part of the state, and it was the year before our incident. And he was serving a warrant, and somebody leaned out through the window and shot him right in the neck. And he's actually a quadriplegic, and he had like 11 months to retire. And the guy can't even move poor guy can't even move his fingers, Yeah. And, after, like, with all my complaining, and I'm like, oh, I can't move, I'm in so much pain on the couch, and, I had, stomach issues going on, they took part of my intestine out, and I'm like, this is terrible, I can't take this anymore. Then all of a sudden I thought about that poor guy, and I'm like, listen, like, I could move, I'm up. Sooner or later, knock on wood, I'll be able to heal up and get better and move on. This poor guy is going to be stuck in that situation. So what am I complaining about? Because people always have it worse than me. And for me, that kind of got me through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like perspective always helps with anything that, adversity that happens in your life. A little bit of perspective can help push you. That's what, like, even on an everyday basis, my wife, she's always like, oh, I'm stressed out over this or I'm stressed out over that. And I'm like, what do you have to worry about? I'm like, there's poor people out there that have cancer and are suffering and dying, and we're not going to, we're perfectly healthy. So what are you complaining about?
And I'm not going to, it's difficult at times, like just this last week, I lost a good friend of mine, talked to her on Tuesday. She's dead on a Friday. I was supposed to see her on a Wednesday. And so I was talking to my wife because we know both her and her husband and been talking to him and, both on vacation. She just drops dead. And it's like, you start thinking about it, you start taking things for granted, and you never know. There's always somebody that has it worse. And I've been texting him back and forth. And it's like, dude, I said, he goes, there's nowhere. I said, there doesn't need to be words, bro. You're here. He's still in the hospital, but, she's dead, but he's still here. So it's like things could always be worse, right?
Well, that's the thing. And like you said, you take things for granted. And when you look back and you're complaining about something, it's really minute or stupid things that you complain about when, people like that, are going through a very, very difficult situation, I'm sure. So it's like, what am I complaining about?
Yeah. Yeah. And yet we still find ourselves that complain.
Yeah.
It's like, and sit there and think about that. And I sit here and I'm thinking about that. And I'm like, well, if Jess had been alive, and then it's like, what the fuck am I, what was I complaining about this morning? And you'll go back and you'll find yourself showing those moments. It's interesting, man. It's very interesting. So how many races have you done? Like, when was your first? So what was your first race after your amputation? So I'm assuming rehab and everything, learning how to use your prosthetic and everything.
So I actually did a race the year right after my injury in 2015. I actually did New York City Marathon, but I did it in a hand cycle. If you know what those are, it's like a 3-wheel. There's
Anything in a marathon, I don't care what it is. It's like,
well, for me, it was a lot easier.
yeah, you already won. I mean, bro, I could do it on a 4-wheeler with a motor, and I'm still going. Why am I still going? This is
I only made it 25 miles.
So I did that. That was an achievement for me because, again, it was kind of getting back into that norm of, this is what I used to do. Even though it's a different way of doing it, I still did it, and I still got a medal. And it was a huge accomplishment. And then probably, so your question is after the amputation. What I did. So I didn't really do any races. I did. So I had.
I mean, getting back into the gym.
This one you might think crazy. So Operation Enduring Warriors participates in what they call the. It's called the Death March, the Baton Death March. It's out in White Sands, New Mexico. You probably
It's
World War II. Yeah, you want to explain your?
Well, I mean, it's based off of a march that the Japanese made American soldiers do,
and I think it was like a marathon. It was like 26 miles.
It was something crazy.
It was like freezing out and something crazy, and they were all
they're all POWs, and they just.
So they have this death march in remembrance of that every year out in White Sands, New Mexico. And so right when I had the leg amputated, I want to say it was probably like not even 6 months, maybe like 4 months, 5 months. They asked me to go out to that. I'm like, I don't have a prosthetic. I can't put a prosthetic on right now. I'm on crutches. Yeah. All right, bring the crutches out and do it. So again, though, with our organization, we always have those MAP members who help out the honorees like myself. So you feel confident, like if you need help, those guys are there to help you, and that's part of our team. That's what we do. And so I went out there. Ended up doing the 14 miles. We did half of it. I did 14 miles on crutches. Yeah, and it was it sucked. I'm not gonna lie, it sucked.
Crutches are terrible.
Yeah, dude, it's horrible.
It sucked. But again, it was more about meeting the other guys because that was one of the first events I went to where it was such a large turnout for OEW to be there, and I met so many different guys and got so many different ideas just for like the prosthetic stuff. That guys that have prosthetics are like, try this leg or try this or do this so it doesn't rub when you get it on, and it was crazy. And you always take home, like I took home one of my best friends right now. I met out there when we did that death march, and I want to say that was 2018. It was sometime, like I said, a couple months after my surgery. But yeah, I did it on crutches. So that was probably one of the craziest things.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's harder. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, that would seem harder than doing it with the prosthetic.
Yeah.
Doing it with crutches.
And then we had another guy on our team, Matt Bradford, and he's a double leg amputee and he's blind. So I'm seeing him do it, and I'm like, what am I complaining about? I'm just on crutches.
Bro, and that's what I'm saying. Like, seeing some of the stuff that the honorees y'all do and stuff, it's like, and you start to complain during a workout. You're like, what am I complaining about? You know?
It's funny you said that. So, like I said, when my wife ran the New York City Marathon, she didn't really train for it. She didn't really have the time to, and I was kind of nervous for her because she didn't train. But
so how do you just start running that?
I still don't know how she did it. She impressed me, I'll tell you that much. But right before the race, I said, well, what's going to be really bad for you mentally is when you have like the guys with like double amputees flying past you and you're there running. I'm like, that's really going to put your mindset in the dumps. Yeah. She's like, thanks, because I've been there. Yeah. I've been there before when before my incident, when I ran marathons, there would be double amputees running past me, and I'm like,
bro, there's guys.
You guys to slow down.
Yeah. We need you to pump the brakes a little bit, man. That's crazy, man. So you've obviously come a long way, and you've been doing a lot of the speaking engagements. How has that helped you to tell the story?
So a lot of people ask me, does it bother you to, retell the story over and over again? And the only time it kind of bothered me was when we actually had the trial for that individual, because I was in. I didn't
even think about that.
Yeah, we had a trial, a full blown trial, and I was dreading it because.
So he didn't take a plea deal or anything. He wanted to fight it.
I think our district attorney really wanted to go all the way and really give it to him.
Good.
You know,
Well,
so
and at that time, it's probably pretty fresh.
it was fresh. It was that was 2017, so it was almost like 3 years after. Yeah. So, he was found guilty on every count, but that I was dreading because it was in an environment that I didn't want to retell my story in.
Yeah.
When I tell my story, like this environment is a good environment for me to tell my story. Or when I'm, speaking to kids in an auditorium in a school or something, I think people need to hear it, and be aware of, unfortunately what happened, not
So
just.
did you testify?
I did. I
in
had
front
to
of him?
testify. Yes.
Did you do a victim impact testament in front of him?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yes.
So what was that like? Bro, I don't think I would be held in contempt of court because I'd be reaching over.
Oh,
it, man.
I wanted to so bad. I mean, he would just sit there with his head down, not looking at anyone, not doing anything. Real
I just don't
creeper,
know. I don't think I could do it, bro. I mean,
there was many times where
at bare minimum, I just want to cuss you the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like I just want to
At least look at me while I'm
look
talking
at
to
you.
you.
And
Look at me,
just,
boy.
Yeah, look at me, boy. Hold my pocket.
Yeah.
you know.
You're gonna understand.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's so. What was that like then?
yeah, it was just, like I said, he had no remorse. He had no emotions. So for me, it was like looking at a wall, and it actually wasn't that bad. And during the trial, I was actually glad that the trial actually occurred instead of taking a plea deal because, like I said, we went all the way with it. You got the death penalty. But besides that, I actually learned a lot being at the trial on what actually happened, stuff that I had no idea even went on and, occurred because I was, in the hospitals most of the time, when everything was going on. So for me, it was very informative about what happened. So
How your partner that obviously lost his life that night, were y'all friends? Were y'all close?
So he only started working at our station I think he was only there for a month. He was transferred. He was newly promoted to a corporal, and then he transferred up to our station. So he was only there for a month. I would talk to him in passing and everything like that, but I didn't really.
Did he stand a chance?
No, he was done, I think, instantly.
Did they ever find out? Was he called out there or was he just walking?
He had his patrol car parked in front of the station, and he was leaving that night. So he just was walking out to the car. It's just random.
That's crazy.
Very random. And like I said at the beginning, I think, don't quote me on it, but I believe he switched shifts with another corporal that night to work that shift.
I'm telling you, bro. Every single time, it's something.
Something crazy.
It's like when I lost my friend in San Antonio, he wasn't supposed to be working. It was just working overtime. Just so happened to find the one vehicle. And the guy's at 110 miles an hour, fires one round outside the car without looking, square in the head, dead. it's just your time.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate to think of it that way, but that's the way it is. So, we'll start to wrap things up here, but we were having an interesting conversation and you said you missed it and being part of the camaraderie. Would you want to go back right now?
To our job?
Yeah.
I think for me, there's more important stuff that I'm making a difference with, such as my public speaking and awareness and, trying to, people that have, like, back home, we just had this young man. He was 22 and he was hit on a motorcycle. Guy went through a stop sign and he ended up losing his leg, the kid. And somebody put me in touch with him. And this kid texts me like at least 2 or 3 times a week. And he says, I would be so depressed if it wasn't for you because you just bring my spirits up and you just have such a positive outlook on life. So I think, like I said before, you could, I thought there was no other way to serve my community besides wearing a uniform.
Yeah.
But I finally realized there's many, many other ways that you could serve. And that's how I feel. I feel like I can make a bigger impact than going back to where I was before.
Yeah, you get a lot more exposure now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. And we talked about it. Being a cop nowadays is not.
It's not easy.
It was.
And I hear it all the time. Like I was telling you earlier, guys on my job, like that I know, and they're
struggling.
They're
bro.
frustrated. Yeah.
They're frustrated. They're struggling. And I can't imagine. Being up north, northeast, dealing with, we've got friends that are cops up there, and I'm just like, man, the stuff y'all deal with is just, it's a totally different type of police work. Yep. It really is. Beforehand, you could say you could put a cop anywhere and you could patrol, right? And that's probably somewhat true as far as like just generalities. I don't know where I cut myself. anyways,
Even the stuff when I started in 2005, I look back and I'm like, geez, some of the stuff I did then, like I'd probably be, not that I was doing anything wrong, but that I would probably be like fired or arrested today.
Oh, yeah.
Just how things change.
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just how we were taught to handle incidents. And like I said, people would have been jammed up for it. You know?
And nowadays, I mean, I don't know what the hell I did. I'm sure shit bleeding. But anyways, nowadays, I mean, you get a trooper that's alone and you're in an all-out fight. I mean, it's a fight for your life. However you're going to win. Stick him in the head with a knife, hit him with a rock, But nowadays, you may not be justified. And that's the fact that you being alone may not be able to be a self-defense because they just hate the cops.
Let me ask you, since you're, an officer, would you second guess yourself like today compared to like say years ago? Like if you were under a circumstance like you were saying, an all-out brawl, like crap hits the fan.
If I were to sit here and tell you no, I think I'd be lying because, the way I handle my business in Dallas County versus the way I would handle my business out in Clay County is different.
Yeah.
Because of Dallas County, like you can do everything right, and the district attorney may have it out for you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just the climate we live in. I almost had to pull the trigger on somebody the other day, and in the moment, it didn't occur to me, right? Like I literally was about to waste him, completely, and probably should have. Hindsight being 20/20. But after the fact, immediately after, I cleared him, put him in handcuffs, secured the gun, or had my partner secure the gun. And the first thing I was thinking, I was like, man, my life could have been over right then. Totally justified shooting, right? But in our position, we don't wear body cameras because we do so much UC work. There wasn't a camera there. So the fact that he pulled the gun and was, however you want to argue, pulling, just trying to get rid of it or trying to shoot one of us, we don't know. But it would have been my word against his word.
Yep.
And so you don't know.
In today's society, like you said.
And that's so I don't know if I necessarily would second guess myself in the moment, but I haven't necessarily been in a situation in a county like Dallas County where that's why when we go do things over there, I'm taking a whole bunch of guys and I'm making sure everything's documented not because we're doing anything wrong. I'm just going above and beyond. Like where I may go hit a door in Tarrant County and breach it and go in and get the guy, I may just slow roll this and go, we're going to surround them, let SWAT come in and get them. Yep. It's just not worth it.
Exactly.
Which is sad, man, because I know guys that just won't work over there. Like, and to be honest, there's times that I just don't want to work over there. And is that right or wrong? Unfortunately, I don't know. The fact that we've got so many cases that we have the luxury of being able to pick and choose, but at what cost?
Yeah.
I can't imagine being a patrol officer right now. I can't imagine being in a troop in today's. I can't imagine having to respond to everyday calls again. And I love this job, but I don't know if I'd do it. If you were to send me back to the road right now, I just don't know if it's worth it. And it's my calling, and I love it, and I've preached it on the show. Is it worth it, bro?
I know. And I think that's the feedback I kind of get from a lot of our guys, the troopers up in PA that I've spoken to. A lot of them can't wait to retire and just, hang it up because it's getting so bad,
Yeah. I mean, you look at the cops in, what was the one where they all called in the blue flu right after they indicted the officer, or arrested the officer? Atlanta. I guess it was Atlanta PD.
Yeah, probably.
I don't blame those cops.
Yeah.
I don't blame those guys who are going, you know what? I don't necessarily agree. Like, hey,
I think they're on a SWAT team and they totally just shut it down and were like,
no, this is the dude outside the Wendy's. They shot him and with a taser or something like that.
He was shooting a taser back at the cop.
Yeah. And I don't blame the cops for going, we're not coming in because of the decisions that are being made. I don't necessarily agree with it because we have a duty to protect, but I don't blame.
You reached that level though, probably at that time, and it's like you can't blame them.
We were on vacation and we were talking to a New York City cop that we met, and the stuff they deal with. No way. Yeah. No way.
Well, when the situation makes you question why you're even doing it, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. Like questioning whether it's worth it to protect other people when that's what you want to do. That's how you know it's really bad on the back end.
Yeah.
And if we don't fix that, then then who's going to want to do the job? And the only people that'll do the job aren't going to be very good at it, and it's just going to be unfortunately a vicious cycle.
A worse issue.
Yeah.
At that point.
Well, and we're already seeing it. I mean, some of these agencies are lowering their standards for hiring.
Yeah, they have to.
I mean, and exactly. What choice do they have? We have a public to protect, so we've got to look at the thing in Minneapolis, George Floyd's death. So many red flags there, and I don't agree with what that dude did at all. So many red flags that took place, but a lot of those red flags were with the standards that are held there, and the training standards, and where they're able to cut corners.
I said before, like from 2005 to now, like I said, I probably would have been fired, but that was our way of training. That's how we were trained. And, And compared to now, like I said, you'd get jammed up. It's crazy.
It's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts. All right. So in closing, dude, thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is awesome.
We have several sponsors of the show. Today's sponsors, we're Denny Law Group, Triarch Systems, and Tack Up Fish. We thank y'all dollars. Triarch Fish. Triarch Fish.
Coming to your stores.
Triarch Systems, thanks to you again for coming in. We got you some stuff, man. So we kind of told him we weren't able to do lunch or anything today because we got a little boy's birthday party, but we got you. We totally kidded.
Nice,
So go ahead and open all these up.
Thank you.
We totally kidded him out with some swag. Awesome. I hope you have room in your luggage.
If not, let me know. We'll ship it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can
Thank
always
you.
ship it. Got you all kinds of stuff from Tack Up Fish, from us, Triarch. Yeah, man. So we really appreciate it. If we screwed up the sizes, Jeremy's the one that told me sizes. So we did mediums and larges.
Oh, yeah, we're good.
Cool.
Yeah, the medium's for when he's running the marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
The large is for the months after.
There you go.
That's one question. So as far as like how many prosthetics do you have?
So I have 3. So I have like this one that I have on now. It's called like an Light foot. So it's just like a
And I love the quote he said when he was trying to get hired. I think it was when he was trying to get hired or was in an interview. So the difference is in the regular employee, when they break their leg, they're out. When I break my leg, I just go replace it. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true, dude. It's so true.
He goes to the trunk, grabs another one, puts it on, and goes.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, man. So one of the last questions we have for everybody, and obviously you've lived it and gone through it, but part of the show here is, our goal is to try to be as uncommon as possible, right? Not to just live life as it is, obviously to live an uncommon life, but in your words, in today's society and whatever you believe it is, what do you believe being uncommon is?
I believe, like, even before I came here, I was kind of thinking about that phrase, and
Did Jeremy set you up for that?
No.
Okay.
No. No. He, I just think uncommon, we live different lives, as police officers or veterans or, first responders in general. And there's always that chance that something significant can happen and be really negative on your life. But, there's always that chance in our line of work that it's not uncommon that we could get injured or in the line of duty, but we live what they call not a normal lifestyle. It's more uncommon. That's what I take out of it.
Awesome. Zach, you haven't been on the show yet, so
No, we got to save that for my episode.
well, that's a Pushing the Line series. This isn't a PTL episode. We got to answer, bro. You're guest
Do I
hosting
have to?
today. Yeah, you do.
All right, give me the question again so I have
All
time
right.
to think.
So in today's, okay, I'll give it to you this way. I'll give it to you in a different way.
Yeah.
In a world of commonality where everybody just goes with status quo, what is the meaning of being uncommon to you?
I think effort, additional effort. We can all go,
It's good.
day to day walking around, but the additional effort it takes to do something special or to have an impact in areas of our lives, I think that's what makes people uncommon, is just that additional effort.
Yeah.
I agree. That's nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. We haven't had that one yet. Jess, we haven't had an effort one yet. I'm not going to lie, Alex. He kind of beat you on that one.
Yeah, he crushed me.
He crushed it. He crushed it. No, that was good.
TM.
Yeah, TM, trademark. Hashtag winning.
That was deep.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for coming out here.
Thanks
and guys,
for having me.
make sure y'all go check out Operation Enduring Warrior, their page. Go see everything they're doing. Do you have an Instagram or anything, like a company or a website where you go to talk about where you're speaking?
Sure.
Or
My Instagram handle's Alex T. Douglas at Instagram.
Very original.
Yeah, it's my name.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good. And for speaking engagements, everything, is that through Operation Enduring Warrior solely, or do you have another side project?
You could go through my Instagram or email me at Douglas, DOUGLASS, the letter A, and the letter T is in Tom, at yahoo.com. And we could always set something up that way.
Awesome. Something I want to add to anybody that's listening that's in a command staff here, and in a way of leadership in law enforcement. So, and we didn't mention it, it is so unique. So you've been on medical leave now for
7 years.
7 years. Am I wrong? That's unheard of. I mean, we know guys who have been shot that instantly in 6 months, HR and everybody's trying to fight whatever claims. And the fact that you've got your agency supporting you to essentially get to retirement, correct?
Yeah, we don't get me wrong, we did have a couple
I know, but
people in there trying to fight it, but right now, and when this first happened to me, I was very fortunate that we did have an excellent administration, and we do now. And
the thing was, the fight was
they
had.
actually care.
Yeah, the fight was had.
Yes.
There's a lot of places where that fight would probably be mute, and you may be set out to pasture.
Sooner than later. Yeah.
So I don't know how that works. I don't understand all that. I get there's political ramification. I get all that money and all that, but that to me is huge, and leadership needs to take examples of that and realize, look, it can be done, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we need to stand behind our people. I mean, we lay our lives on the line, and you had a part of their life was paid for. You paid for it with your own injury. I just thought that was very interesting. I couldn't believe that when you said that.
Yeah. No, they took care of me.
That's awesome.
They continue to. So.
All right, well, guys, so here's what we got coming up next. We got another Pushing the Line episode coming out soon, which this episode will be dropping, so this will be Wednesday when you're hearing this. We've got the movie shootouts with Triarch Systems. So best movie shootouts in movie history. We're going to do a coverage, so we're going to drop them on Instagram and social media. You'll be hearing this on Wednesday. We're recording Friday, so Wednesday and Thursday, hit us up on our pages. You'll be seeing them on the stories. Right, Katya? Be seeing some stories, seeing some short clips of stuff. We want to hear what your favorite movies are, and we're going to cover some of the top 10 movie shootouts and talk about them. And I get it, Heat is one of them, so let's just leave it at that. Like, don't send me Heat, because we all know that's going to be one, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be a fun episode. It's just something different. Talk about the guns and stuff and the shootouts and stuff like that. So just something fun to do. So, Alex, thank you so much, man.
Thank you guys
so much
having
for
me.
having us. Thank you, Zach. Remember, guys, stay safe, stay switched on, and stay uncommon.
So